Today, we're embarking on an epic adventure through the Great White North. That's right, we're talking about Canada, a country so vast and varied, it's like a whole world in one nation. Let's kick things off with some mind-blowing facts. Canada is the second largest country on Earth, covering nearly 10 million square kilometers. That's like 18 United Kingdoms smashed together. But despite all that space, Canada's population is smaller than California's. Talk about room to breathe. A land of contrasts. Now, let's paint a picture of Canada's landscape. Forget the idea that it's all ice and snow. Canada's got more variety than a box of Timbits. In the west, you've got the Rocky Mountains, a playground for hikers, skiers, and wildlife enthusiasts. Head east, and you'll hit the prairies, flat grasslands stretching as far as the eye can see. It's where much of Canada's wheat comes from, feeding millions around the world. Keep going east, and you'll reach the Canadian Shield, a massive area of exposed Precambrian rock that's older than life itself. It's dotted with thousands of lakes, making it a paradise for canoeists and fishermen. Finally, you've got the Maritimes and Newfoundland on the Atlantic coast, with their rugged shorelines and friendly fishing villages. Oh, and don't forget the Arctic North, home to polar bears, narwhals, and the stunning northern lights. Climate. Now, let's talk about the weather. Yes, Canada can get cold, like really cold. But it's not a year-round winter wonderland. In the south, where most Canadians live, summers can be hot and humid. Toronto in July? It's like a sauna. Vancouver, on the west coast, has a climate more like Seattle, mild and rainy. But head north, and it's a different story. In Nunavut, the northernmost territory, winter temperatures can drop to minus 50 degrees Celsius. That's colder than Mars on a warm day. And here's a fun fact, Canada's got more lakes than the rest of the world combined. Over 3 million of them. So if you're into water sports, Canada's got you covered, just maybe wait until summer to dive in. The people of Canada. Alright, let's meet the locals. Canada's population is like a global potluck, a bit of everything from everywhere. English and French are the official languages, thanks to Canada's colonial history. But walk down any street in Toronto or Vancouver, and you'll hear dozens of languages. It's like a real-life Tower of Babel, but with better food options. Indigenous peoples have called this land home for thousands of years before European settlers arrived. There are three main groups: First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. Their cultures and traditions are a vital part of Canadian identity, and they're working hard to preserve and share their heritage. Canada's also famous for welcoming immigrants from all over the world. In fact, over 20% of Canadians were born in another country. That's higher than any other G7 nation. Canadian culture. Now, let's dish about Canadian culture. Sure, hockey is practically a religion here, and Canadians do love their maple syrup. But there's so much more to it. Canadian literature is world-renowned. Ever heard of Margaret Atwood, Alice Munro, or Michael Ondaatje? All Canadian. And in the music world, Canada's punching above its weight. From Celine Dion and Shania Twain to Drake and The Weeknd, Canadian artists are topping charts globally. In the film industry, directors like James Cameron and Denis Villeneuve are making waves, while actors like Ryan Reynolds and Sandra Oh are lighting up screens big and small. And let's not forget Canadian comedy. From SCTV to Schitt's Creek, Canadians have been making the world laugh for decades. Ever wonder why there are so many funny Canadians in Hollywood? Now you know. Canadian cuisine might not be world famous yet, but it's definitely worth talking about. Let's start with poutine, a heart-stopping combo of fries, gravy, and cheese curds. But there's more to Canadian food than just poutine. How about Montreal-style bagels, butter tarts, or Nanaimo bars? And don't get me started on Canadian seafood. Atlantic lobster, Pacific salmon, Arctic char, it's a seafood lover's dream. Oh, and did I mention Canada produces 71% of the world's maple syrup? That's a lot of pancake topping. The great outdoors. Canadians love their nature, and with scenery like theirs, who can blame them? The country's home to 48 national parks and hundreds of provincial parks, protecting some of the most stunning landscapes on Earth. Banff National Park in Alberta is a showstopper, with its turquoise lakes and snow-capped peaks. On the east coast, Cape Breton Highlands offers breathtaking coastal views. And in the far north, Oyuitik National Park is an Arctic wonderland of glaciers and tundra. Canadians make the most of this natural playground. Hiking, camping, canoeing, skiing, if it's outdoorsy, Canadians are probably into it. Urban Canada. But Canada isn't all wilderness. Its cities are consistently ranked among the most livable in the world. Toronto, the largest city, is a bustling metropolis known for its diversity and culture. The CN Tower dominates its skyline, and neighborhoods like Kensington Market and Little Italy showcase its multicultural vibe. Vancouver, nestled between mountains and ocean, is a nature lover's paradise. It's got beaches, ski slopes, and one of the largest urban parks in North America, all within city limits. Montreal brings European charm to North America. With its historic architecture, vibrant art scene, and amazing food, it's like a little piece of France in Canada. And don't forget Ottawa, the capital. It might be smaller, but it's packed with national museums, historic sites, and in winter, the world's largest skating rink. The Canadian economy. Now, let's talk about business. Canada's economy is no slouch, it's the 10th largest in the world. Natural resources are a big deal here. Canada's got oil, gas, minerals, and forests galore. It's the 4th largest oil producer globally and the top producer of potash. But it's not all about digging stuff out of the ground. Canada's also big on manufacturing, especially cars and aerospace. Ever flown on a bombardier jet? That's Canadian engineering at work. Services make up the largest part of Canada's economy. Banking, insurance, and tech are all booming sectors. In fact, Toronto is one of North America's largest financial centers, second only to New York. And here's something cool, Canada's becoming a major player in the tech world. Cities like Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal are emerging as AI and video game development hubs. Who knew coding could thrive in the cold? Environmental challenges. Now, all this economic activity comes with challenges. Canada's per capita greenhouse gas emissions are among the highest in the world. Balancing resource extraction with environmental protection is a hot topic here. But Canadians are working on it. The country's setting ambitious climate goals and investing in clean energy. It's like trying to turn a giant ship, it takes time, but the course is changing. Canadian quirks. Before we wrap up, let's talk about some uniquely Canadian things. Did you know Canada's got its own version of football? The field's bigger, there are only 3 downs, and the ball's slightly larger. It's like American football's quirky cousin. And have you heard of Caesar? No, not the salad, it's Canada's national cocktail. Think Bloody Mary, but with clamato juice instead of tomato juice. Oh, and milk comes in bags in some parts of Canada. Yes, bags. It's eco-friendly and practical, once you get the hang of it. Thanks for joining us on this Canadian adventure. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to Plain Tick for more fascinating journeys around our amazing planet.